How's it going, guys? My name is Caleb Kioh, founder of WalletGyde. We are a awesome app that connects young professionals to financial coaches in the area.
Hi, my name is Donovan Bennett. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Mili Llama. Mili Llama is on a mission to end the substitute teacher shortage by connecting college students with K-12 schools.
What's up, everybody? My name is Colley. I'm the co-founder of BookUm. BookUm is a social book clubbing platform for content creators in the book space as well as readers. Excited to talk with you all today.
And I am Kris, co-founder of BookUm as well. As Kyle mentioned, we are happy to be here today and talking with some of my favorite co-founders there are.
Yes, Cheers. Indeed. Yo, we out here, man. So what's really exciting about this is we've had conversations about getting this podcast going. So I'm really excited that we finally got the opportunity to get it going and really just talk about the entrepreneurship. I wouldn't say, I was about to say struggle, but I'll say grind, right? Because it is a legitimate grind for sure.
No doubt.
And, you know, a lot of people have aspirations, right, of building their businesses, but oftentimes they overlook that grind. So this is what this is all about. We're here to talk about that grind, right, guys?
I love it. And like I was saying, it's all about camaraderie and fellowship with entrepreneurs. You don't usually get a chance to, you're usually just so far in the trenches that you don't get an opportunity to have the friendships here and right here. And if, like I said, we were talking about it, even you getting your co-founder and all that now, just having that person, me and Kris are lucky to work with each other, but even how you have built your team is really exciting as well.
And that's a great thing because when you are in those trenches, you're going through those stressful situations. And I know as a young company, we've gone through a lot of stressful situations. And having my co-founder there, Joshua Rogers, has helped support a lot.
Yeah, and one thing I like about it is that we are all in different industries. Obviously, Kyle's my co-founder, so we go through the struggles together, if you will, but we're in the trenches. But you two both have something totally different going on, and it's cool that we can all come together and, find solutions or just have that friendship first, and then the business relationship on the backside of that. So I'm happy to.
Yeah, that's the last part. I think it's really unique that we are founders in the work, right? So you get to see us kind of go through struggles. You get to see our ups and downs and our big breakthroughs too, right? In real time, we get to celebrate each other just on this podcast. So I'm excited to be on a podcast with founders.
Absolutely, yeah. And I would even say, too, right, and this whole journey, right, of entrepreneurship, it always, in my opinion, it kind of starts with that why. So, if y'all are interested, I would like to dive a little bit into that why. Why did you start what you're doing right now? I know for me, my why was always, look, I didn't come from very wealthy, beginnings. I came from humble beginnings. So, for me, it was I've always had a drive and aspirations to become very wealthy just because I knew I grew up without having a lot. So as a result, WalletGyde was kind of that drive and me wanting to learn about money and finance. And after, pursuing that journey, learned a lot, but obviously there's still much more to learn. But I learned enough to be like, you know what, I can actually do something with this information I learned. So my why has always been look, I really want to not only position myself financially where I can win this game, but also help others do the same. So I'm interested to have y'all kind of tell the audience what your why is.
My why, starting BookUm, I think Kyle could go into a little bit more in-depthly, but my start was just seeing Kyle as well as some of my other friends pass me up. I'm in college. I'm living the co-ed life, and my friends are talking about the 48 laws of power. They're talking about Think and Grow Rich. They're talking about these books that I had, no understanding or couldn't have a conversation with them. And I've always wanted to have these deep intellectual conversations or whatever it is. And I was asking them how did they, what are they doing? And they said, we're reading, and so that's how I kind of got into reading. And so it started with read more before BookUm. And we started with the whole premise of people need to read more James Baldwin. And it's oh yeah, people just need to read more in general. So it was oh, that's GOAT. Was put make a logo, put that on a shirt and sell it. That was the start of our entrepreneurial journey. So, it fast forward 7-8 years, here we are in a different space. It's just because one of the things you learn, and I can get into it a little bit later,
Sure.
is just being the man in the arena. Things just change. There's so many different things that come out and so many life lessons that are learned, but my why really started from just wanting to not be left behind.
Yeah, it's funny. Like we were like selling T-shirts at farmers markets, right? And that's not how it works, right? Usually, when you're at a farmers market, people are buying fruits and vegetables and all that. So we're over here selling books, T-shirts, like just trying to happen. Like, and we learned so much from like that person-to-person selling. And that was when we were doing Read More. And then like with the passion, what comes with BookUm is that we were content creators in the space. We saw how people would give us just free books, right? And we'd have, thousands of people come to our platform just to see these books, right? And there's so many content creators in our space who have these big platforms and can really do something special in the book space. And it's allowing them to monetize, allow them to create as creators on our platform, to bring their best self and have really rich, engaging conversation in the book space. Because so often in the book space, it's become like, I'm not saying it's bad, but there's some here, I have this book, and it's like just doing these really cool TikToks, but like great stories happen when you have these conversations like this. So sure. That's really what we're building on our platform. I'm just, like I said, it's super exciting to work in this new fresh spot. Because like when we did Read More, it was like, all right, we're just learning business. Now we're like, okay, BookUm's here to stay, and
it's more
really
like the
do something,
application of it.
Yeah, do something really unique with what we've learned and how to put it into a whole package in a platform.
And that's the beauty of being part of this community. Listen to all three of your stories, that passion that y'all talked about of each one of your companies, even both of you, your co-founders, your brothers, and you both spoke distinctively regarding your companies and that passion. And I know my reason for starting Mili Llama is rooted in I'm a substitute teacher for my daughter's school here in Colorado. Throughout that experience, I saw an opportunity where I could bring technology and a different group of individuals that can solve a short-term need as well as provide a pipeline for future educators by college students of all majors become substitute teachers. And yeah, it's just a beautiful thing, and we need it. We're in a desperate need for teachers, and if we don't help this out, our children are in desperate need.
Yeah, we know firsthand. We used to work in education. It's like, dude, them schools are so important. So I love what you're doing too.
Awesome. No, and that's what it all starts up with, man. It starts with that passion, right? It starts with that why. What Simon Sinek, right? He has a whole book and started trending, right? So, and it's beautiful to really understand the why, because I know we've all actually been in a business program together, and it talked about like, look, when your why is big enough, the facts don't count, or whatever, some statement like that, but like at the end of the day, because there are those ups and downs, right? So let's talk about that. Let's talk about those trenches, right? Because
even before we go in there, I would love to, because you kind of brought it to it. I would love to hear just how we met, because we don't talk about that, but sure. It does go into this, right? Like we are all in an accelerator program together, right?
Are we doing name drops or?
I mean, of course, if you want to.
I feel like we're dancing around the program name.
Shout out
to Access Mode.
Access
Course.
Shout out to
so
Access Mode.
I don't know, Kyle. You could tell a little bit more about how we met Kevin.
Oh, really? I don't think it's that crazy. There's this venture fund out in Colorado that they're like building for like African Americans, BIPOC, all these different founders. And me and Kris reached out. We're at like our homecoming, right? And we just like reached out, got an interview. And we seemed like we were really too far away. Like we were like, oh, there's no way they're going to bring us into this program. But he said, hey, if you guys, he's like, to this fund, he said, but if you guys do this access mode or this other opportunity I have with our accelerator, you might have a better chance of getting to the fund. So
yeah. So
then we kind of forgot, and then we just like reached out. Did I miss anything? But then like,
no, I was gonna say then we went through the interviewing process and obviously got selected. So that was one of the best highlights of BookUm so far, just being able to be like, okay, someone believes in our this idea that we are passionate about and see that there's a opportunity here. And it was the first person that was like, yes, come join us. And then I love founders. I love being around them. And then obviously founders of color. And then I was able to meet, Donovan, Caleb, and many others. So I want to hear about y'all.
We all have, first of all, our characters are all, we all have amazing characters and personalities that we bring to the table, which is amazing, right? But you said something there too, which is getting validation from extra. One of the most important thing when you're building a company is getting validation from others, and especially when it's like business organizations or investment organizations or accelerator programs. So getting accepted into an accelerator program that you have to qualify for is it's a huge boost in your confidence, your in the progress of your company. So I would say to add on to that, like when WalletGyde also got accepted as well, so interestingly, we were coming from right after a prior accelerator program. Yeah, it was just a prior accelerator program. So we were already in the trenches, and we were like, "Yo, okay, what's next? What we got?" And then out of nowhere, we, I had conversations with Kevin as well. Actually, where I met him was through this other organization. That was ran by these other people, and so that's where I met him, and we had a nice conversation, pitched the product to him, and at that time, we were a little early stage. I don't think we were ready, and probably because we were initially looking for funding. And so I don't think we were necessarily ready, but I kept in connection with him. So I will, throw out a nugget, if we're allowed to do that here, is like, look, in the process of this journey, like, even though like you pitch in front of people and they say no or this or whatever, no just means I was just actually watching a nice little YouTube. No means just like not now, like maybe later or next opportunity, whatever, next opportunity, right? NO, next opportunity. So like, don't like feel too disheartened if you're speaking to an investor or a customer or whatever, and they say like, nah, or no, or you're not interested. I kept in touch, and then went through another accelerator program, and then after that accelerator program, I reached back out to him, and he was like, oh wow, yeah, no, this looks great. And then he told me about access mode. So that's how I got.
I'm sorry to jump in right before Donovan goes, but you said something that stood out to me. It's like a lot of founders, especially first-time founders or people who are, new to the space or whatever it is, they take those no's to heart.
Yeah.
And Kyle and I talk about all the time is like allowing the no's to fuel you. You know what I mean? Like, it's, yes, that no hurts, or, you felt some type of way about it, but allow that to be a momentum to carry you forward to the next yes.
No, you shouldn't even be an entrepreneur if you don't like the word no, because you're going to hear no from a customer, clients, in interviews, everything, like investors. Like, that's the word that you just got to get very comfortable with. And it should actually push you, because you're going to be like, nah, I'm on to something, right? Like, the more no's you get sometimes, it's more like y'all sometimes don't see what we're creating, right? Because, again, me and Kris, for example, we're in the book space. Most people are like, oh, books out of date, blah, blah, blah. And then you just show them the numbers back over here. You show what's happening. You're like, okay, why is this many people doing this thing, right? It's no different than Airbnb with Brian Chesky and all them. It's like, are people like, oh, are you actually going to be doing an bed and breakfast at your house and people do this? They're like, no one does this, right? So those no's, you have to kind of use them as momentum as well.
And learn from those no's. You take those no's as a learning opportunity. Once those individuals tell you no, you get that feedback and find out how can you tailor your company if required, because there's a lot of they call it whiplash, feedback whiplash, and you don't want to get that as well. So you have to take it, digest it, and make the best decision that works for you and your company, and continue to grow. And I know we've been on a roller coaster ourselves, and right now we're on a good high, but we just came off a no a few weeks ago that put us in a bad place, but now we're rebounding and keep going forward. And then how I got into access mode was a post that I saw on LinkedIn. I applied one day. I didn't hear back from access mode. I actually didn't think I was going to get in. And then randomly, a month later, the post reappeared again. It stated that the application deadline was at night. I said, I'm not going to apply. It's really no point. And then something at the last minute told me to apply, and I was fortunate enough to get in, meet you.
Yeah, I say we're lucky.
Yeah, and I would say we all hit it off pretty, off the bat. Like, I remember the first opening thing we did, we ate with Caleb.
Yep.
The first retreat we did, Donovan and I were in the same like little
Group.
annex group or whatever. So yeah, I mean that's from my perspective. Obviously,
I agree.
Obviously, it could be wrong.
I mean, if we
What?
didn't,
That
I
That
don't
we
say.
hit it off immediately.
Oh, yeah.
I guess if we didn't like
100%.
each other, we wouldn't be doing no
Yeah.
podcast. That's
I
it.
mean,
I'm
there's
just messing
plenty
with
of
you.
relationships that you
That's true.
didn't, like each other off the.
But
No,
see,
that's exactly right.
my biggest thing going into the Access Mode program was that I was a solo founder, and I was afraid everyone's going to have a co-founder in there. They're already going to have those relationships, and then I'll be on the outside looking in. But then when I got into the Access Mode program, Caleb is a solo founder. Brandon's a solo founder. Claudia. The list goes on. I think we have 2 or 3 more individuals.
Yeah,
Sorry, I'm
LaDonna.
forgetting it.
Shout out to
LaDonna's
LaDonna, yeah.
My bad, LaDonna. Shout out to LaDonna.
Sharice.
But one more time, shout out to LaDonna, UPS, small business winner
Exactly.
of 2023.
Yeah.
she up.
Congratulations again, LaDonna.
Yeah.
Man.
So, yes, I had that angst that I was going to come in there, be a solo founder, and then fortunate enough, y'all took me into, hung out with me. And it was fun times, and here we are
believed
now
in
making
the
a podcast.
Yeah, no, I mean that's what it's all about. It's that community. It's once you get the opportunity to see others doing what you're doing, it builds that belief, and so that's exciting. So let's actually get into another topic. And I'm sure you guys hear this topic all the time. It's all about bootstrapping versus raising capital. Yeah.
I
So
think Donovan can take the lead on this one.
Let's
Yeah.
talk about this topic because it's almost like a juggling act with entrepreneurs when we try to figure out, should we just bootstrap this thing or should we go raise that money? So like, what are you guys' experiences with it? Like, and what's your take actually on it?
I was gonna say the elephant in the room is that we're all, founders of color. So a lot of the time is what happens with founders of color, that napkin, idea, here's $3 million to go fulfill your dream and make this a reality, doesn't always happen. Sure, it could happen or does happen. I haven't met those people, but I'm not saying they don't exist. So for us, it was like, okay, no after no after no after no, because we only had an idea. It's like, this idea works. We've been in the space for 6-7 years. This is what people want. We need traction. We need this. We need that. We need something to be built. And you hear that enough, you say, let's build it. And that's where we went. So we went full bootstrap and was like, let's do this from scratch. Was hire a team. Let's work and put our money into it. And we're still bootstrapping to this very day. So, we've gotten access mode money. We've gotten a couple, friends and family. We haven't hit like, 8 figures in, in investment at this moment. I'm not saying it's not going to happen because we're still in that, get traction phase, get traction. So once more, we're in the trenches.
Absolutely.
And I agree. You can actually balance the two. We started off bootstrapping, and then we were accepted to Access Mode, received that $20,000 grant. And then fortunate enough, later on in the year of last year, accepted into one of the well-known accelerators that invested into us as our first VC or institutional
Talk
capital.
your mess, bro.
And that was a great experience being a part of that, accelerator and just learning how to work with VCs, work on product market fit. And we're raising a pre-seed round right now, but if we could thank you. If we just received our first committed capital towards that today, so that was pretty cool.
Congrats. Congratulations.
So if y'all know anyone, please hit us up. Mili,
That's
Llama.
great.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, so even to your point, going back to you, Kris, like I always say this word that maybe, may get, not a lot of people may not necessarily agree with, but I always say I don't see color, right? But
You're one of them.
but at the end of the day, the stats don't lie. Like under 1% of black founders get funding from VCs.
And 0.35 for black women too.
Yeah,
That's under 1%.
Yeah.
Under 1%.
That's how crazy it is.
Regardless if I don't see color or not, like the stats is
Somebody
the stats.
is, right?
Right. So like, and it is real. It's real out there to be not only, I guess, just an entrepreneur, but then even there's layers and levels to it too. Being a black entrepreneur. So, and I guess at the end of the day, for me, I just continue to do what I know I need to do, like build that portfolio, build my entrepreneurship resume, continue to validate the product to the point that it'll get to the point where you can't say no to what's
And that's what I was going to say. One of my favorite quotes of all time, I believe it's by Steve Martin, is, be so good they can't stop you, or
can't ignore you.
Can't ignore you,
Yeah.
excuse me.
Yeah.
Be so good they can't ignore you. To
Yeah.
your point, like, it doesn't matter if Calendly was created by a black founder, or if Spanx were created by a female founder. It doesn't matter, because those are excellent products, and they found product market fit, and they found customers who will kill for that brand and kill for that product. So the color becomes colorless, to your point, because the only color that people start to see is green.
Right.
So
Right.
that's where we're all in that phase right now. It's like
Right.
producing enough green that they don't see black, they don't see red, they
Yeah.
don't see whatever, you know.
And and it's like, yes, these are all the things that you need to understand. Like you do need to understand, like, that startup checklist, right? Of like, what do you need to do? Have a business plan. Understand your customer personas. All these different things. Do some market research. Understand your business model. All those things, yes, you got to do, and then you got to validate it. But at the same time, like, there is that other hurdle that we are up against, and it is what it is. But yeah, the more you're able to just go through that checklist of like, okay, I'm not getting funded, but like, it's like, you can say I'm not getting funded, and maybe instead of necessarily saying it's because I'm black, maybe like go through the checklist and be like, well, hey, I mean, is my business model solid? Is my, buyer's persona solid? Is there even a demand for this
I was going to say,
product?
like, don't allow that to be a detriment or like a hold you back, because once more, the product, the value you're creating should be what matters most.
Yeah.
So if you're like, oh, well, because I'm a black founder, I can't do that, you're already setting yourself back.
Right.
You're already putting yourself in a bad spot. That shouldn't even cross your mind. Like, when I'm sitting here working on our company, I'm not a black founder.
Yeah.
I'm working on my company. That comes later, and sure, that's there, it's present, but like, that's so far out of my thought process, because I don't care. I care about making BookUm one of the top companies in our industry, and then ultimately the planet.
Love it.
No, I was gonna say I read a lot of books and all that, so I
would hope so.
I said I was gonna add something to you all, but Paul Graham started YC, Y Combinators. He has a whole thing on fundraising, and I think it's so good. Like, you want to be the type of company that people come and seek, right? And to your point, Kris, like, be so good you can't ignore, right? So part of it is like, you have to like be that type of company that people are suiting for, because a lot of times VCs are looking, it's always a warm intro and connection with one another, that you really have to be one of those 15, 20 companies that when they go in to invest, you're one of them, right?
And it's about surviving.
Yeah, it's until then.
There was another guy from YC, even though I went through another accelerator, Techstars, since I was saying YC now.
Yeah.
Michael Seibel, I believe is his name.
Exactly.
He mentioned, just don't be a cockroach.
Be a
cockroach. Don't die. Find ways to continue to survive. Find ways to continue. Speak to your customers. Provide value to your customers, and keep going.
The hardest.
MailChimp has been here 24 plus years.
Bootstrapped,
survive and advance.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. So no, and with that being said, like, in this process of going through that startup checklist, right? Let's just shoot the just let's spitball on this one. What would you guys say has been like your greatest success in like understanding the startup checklist, going through it?
Can you explain the startup checklist
Yeah,
a
exactly.
little bit
That's
further?
my bad. Whether it's like, because so I'm kind of slightly organized to the point where I gotta, like, for me, everything has to be like an ingredient. Like, I have to understand, like, well, okay, how can I succeed as a startup entrepreneur? So what I had to do was like create a checklist of like, okay, these are all the things that successful entrepreneurs are doing. So they've had, or they understand they've built a business slide deck. They have a really solid idea of their customer persona. They've gone to product market fit. They've done all these things. they've interacted with their customers or they've sold a product, whatever the case may be in that, process, or just the startup journey. Like, what has been you guys' greatest, struggle, victory, either or you can talk about it.
Yeah.
And because, and especially being in the trenches, right?
Well, that's what I was gonna say. You're gonna probably not like me for this one, but like when it comes to business plans, like I think they sometimes can be overrated, and this is why though. Because as soon as you go and test it against a customer, they're gonna show you whether your business plan works or not. Right. So you can go all in, have that 10-page document say, from step 1, I'm gonna do this. Step 2, I'm gonna do this, right? And you might be able to walk them, but your customer's gonna be like, I don't like that. I don't like this. I don't like that. If you did this, I'm gonna do that, right? And then you also have to know, like, when your customer's leading you in the way you need to go. Like, for example, like Netflix, they were selling DVDs because they're like, oh, our customers are buying DVDs. But they knew if they kept going down the DVD path, Walmart, all the other ones were gonna beat them there because they're just bigger, right? So they had to go in and say, hey, no, we started with rentals. We have to focus. We got to make sure we do this subscription box, right? Or these subscription DVDs. So sometimes you have to know, like, when you're moving in the right way. Even so, when you listen to customer feedback, you got to move both ways. So that's what I was saying. When it comes to business plans, you got to know that they are just going to be attacked the moment you go into business.
Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
Period.
Shout out Mike Tyson. Yeah. So yeah, we didn't really put together a business plan per se in the sense that Caleb is referring to. But my responsibilities in the company is I'm build out the tech, or responsible for leading tech build out, as well as customer success once substitute teachers and school partners are onboarded. Throughout that time, I had to build out a product roadmap of what technology we wanted to get, features based on feedback from our early users. And our biggest success was finally getting our iOS app launched in November. And that felt good. I know I saw y'all get your app launched as well.
Hey.
It feels good as
absolutely
a big step, because now you can show someone tangibly, this is my company, this is what I'm building. It felt good showing my wife that, like, hey, this is what I've been working on in my mind.
Well, and let's talk about that milestone, because, like, that's the thing too. Like, there are these milestones, right? That kind of as you're going through that check process, right? What you already mentioned some of that right there, but what other milestones have you guys set for yourself that either you've already accomplished or that you want to accomplish, especially whether it's this year, to be like, yo, I did it.
I think a paying customer is a pretty big milestone for any for any business that has that B2B or B2C or whatever it is.
Absolutely.
Where when we had somebody who just out of the blue bought a book club, because that's what you could do on BookUm, I was like, oh, tight, And it's even better when you don't know the person, because it's like, okay, things are starting to resonate outside of myself. Exactly. And we talk about it all the time. It's like we're building a social network, so we need the network effect, and we are going to be on the treadmill pushing this thing, pushing it until it becomes a living organism outside of us. You know what I mean? But back to business plans, I landed somewhere in the middle, and there's going to be, if there's 100 founders in here, there's going to be 100 different ways of looking at it. So if a business plan works for someone like Caleb, who's like structured and is like, I need this, and this, it works. And if it's like Kyle, who's a little bit more fluid, I think you just have to figure out for yourself. And then, as Donovan said, you have a plan, but just be malleable, because things are going to change. That is the one definite about being in business, is that things are going to change.
Yeah, and I would say for our biggest accomplishment, and they say this, so when I say this, you're going to be like, all right, Kyle, again, but people say it all the time. When you have a team, like when you actually build, because it's one thing to be like, okay, I can get this customer. When you have a team that's like believes in you and you're hitting payrolls and all this, and you have a team that can actually build the thing that you're saying, it is the best thing. So I'd say our biggest achievement right now is working with a great team, because they're amazing. Like, I shout them out all the time, but like that's I really do love our team.
Yeah, with that, actually, let's hop right into building teams, building an organization. I know we're still in a startup stage, and there's obviously there's much more
levels to it, right?
To that to go. But like, what have you guys experienced in the process of hiring, firing, leading? working with interns or not.
How you acquire interns?
Pay your interns.
Pay your interns.
What are
Hashtag pay your interns.
Yeah, this is a pro intern podcast.
Yeah, what are your experiences with dealing with all of that?
We got so blessed, and I'll make a long story short. So we went to Miami Tech Week in 2022, and we met this guy who's really dope, has thousands of followers on YouTube or on Twitter, and he later on that summer was like, yo, who are some founders looking for engineers, and who are some engineers looking for founders? And there was thousands of people that put their things in there, and we were one of the founders, and we connected with about 12 different engineers, and we landed on 2 that we really liked. Shout out to those 2. And then one of them was like, actually, one of my friends, he's a back-end engineer as well, so he could work on this. Come to find out, he's one of our MVPs, and he set us up with our interns later down the road. So
Nice.
I don't know. When you are in the game, I think whatever it is, for me, it's God, whatever the universe, the cosmos, whatever you say, it's going to be working in your behalf if you believe it.
Love it.
So I think for us establishing a team, that really was super powerful because, to your point, we did have co-founders, so we did have each other, so we had a good base. But then after that, the stars aligned for us.
I'll have you guys add on to that, but I want to just throw in another question too. Like, what is the power of like going to networking events been in the process of?
You should honestly answer your own question on that. You are like the guy for us, I think, that's really great at networking. So I think you'd probably have a better answer, and you could probably answer that for everybody.
Well, I mean, I know you were about to hop in, so go ahead.
Yeah, I'll go in just on the team. I think a good rule of thumb is that the first 10 people, first 5 people you bring on to make up 10% of your company, right? So the first 10 hires are like very, very important. So you want to, it's like a company, you want to build a right foundation with your startups. Like everybody that's coming in has to carry a lot of weight, especially in the beginning. So I would say in those first 10 or those first 5, whatever you're bringing in, make sure that they're like bar raisers, right? Each person is bringing in a little bit higher, and they can do something that you can't do, and you're so happy that they can make things happen. So I'd say really focus on those first 10.
And I would even say, or I would ask too, to even add on to that. I don't know if this is too in detail, but as an entrepreneur, I think a lot of us, or even some people, don't realize that like it takes you having to like create like an actual like plan for the people that works for you. So like, and that's a whole process of like creating projects and all that. And so what tools do you guys use, or if any, to help lead your team that you have? Because so I currently use Trello. It's a really great project management tool, and even that process of being able to be like, okay, I've hired this engineer, or I've hired this marketer, or I've hired this UX designer, or whatever the case may be, and then now you have multiple people in multiple different areas of your business, and so then it's like having to work with those different people to accomplish one major goal is a whole thing. It's not an easy thing to do. Yeah. So a lot of entrepreneurs don't realize that. And so it's really important to walk people through that process of how do you guys, I know I use Trello to do that, and I map out roadmaps, product roadmaps, and all that. And then sometimes in our status weekly calls, we'll go over our roadmaps and stuff. So just interested to see how you guys operate, if any. You may not have to be as structured as I am.
No, we are structured in that. Like when it
Nice.
comes to organization, we mostly use Slack to communicate and work with each other. We actually have been using our app to have some conversations.
BookUm.
Like we literally have our conversations on our Nook channel, so that's really been cool.
Which is a live audio.
Yeah, live audio rooms, so you can have real-time discussions, like kind of like what we're doing now. So yeah, we use our own platform, a lot of those things, and just like allowing us to create and work with each other on those.
Yeah, and then also, Google, everybody has our emails, and I just got into like Task.
Yeah, exactly.
Task.
Yeah, Google Task. If you have G Suite and you have like your own emails for it, everybody has an email. You can just like send them different tasks, and they get an email alerting them, and you can say, hey, by March 1st, this needs to be done. And you could say, Donovan, you do this. Kyle, do this. Caleb,
It's just like
does this.
Trello.
Just like Trello, yeah.
Google had it.
Yeah, I know. So
I'll just be
Task.
sitting there, and
Okay.
Kris will just send a task. I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
I'm the operations guy.
Yeah,
Kyle's the
yeah,
CEO.
yeah.
I'm the COO. So like
Nice.
you're talking my language. I also have a hot take about networking events. I want to get back to.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to dive into it, or Donovan, you got something to say?
I actually forgot.
It's all good. It's gonna come back.
No, it's good. I like that.
So you wanted me to talk about networking, or do you?
No,
have
no,
something?
no. We brought it up, and then it just
Yeah.
the
Well, what's your
conversation.
take?
So,
You got
I mean-
Caleb, and then we
Yeah.
can maybe hear the other
Yeah,
side.
honestly, so speaking of reading books, I used to read and still do read a lot of books, right? And one of my favorite books.
Crazy, because you ain't on our.
That's nuts.
he hasn't
actually.
downloaded
Matter
the
of
app.
fact,
Not
is that
even.
crazy?
Wow.
So I could
Three
have
of us
sworn I
have it.
downloaded. So you
Wait, I
might.
have.
He said, I
No,
downloaded
three.
something else.
You,
Yeah.
you
I'm just
might
mess-
want to
I'm
send
totally
me
just
that
messing with you.
that link so I
Do
could
you
download
ever
it.
foresee y'all incorporating podcasts? I'm more of a podcast listener.
Oh, yeah.
That's on the
I
way.
mean, we have
Okay.
podcasts basically through the audio room.
Yeah, you can
so,
create
yeah.
your own podcast
Yeah,
through a
that's
Nook.
kind of how it works.
So you can do that now, but I
There's
think I know
opportunity
what you're
there.
saying.
Yeah.
And speaking code, yes, it's
Yeah.
coming.
So I mean, there's a book. I believe it's called like The Power of How to Win. Well, there's How to Win Friends and Influence People. That's
Classic.
one.
By Dale Carnegie.
Dale Carnegie. The magic of thinking big.
Yeah.
Yes, that was one of the best books that I've read. It's top 5 at least. And in that book, it just really talked about how successful people, they go to conferences, they network a lot. And so ever since I've read that book, in addition to a variety of other books, I've really just kind of embraced the process of networking, building a network, and shaking hands and building my LinkedIn. I started building my LinkedIn ever since I was in college, and like I never looked back. So I think for me, that's what really has inspired me to network and shake those hands and build the community.
Well, those relationships are what actually helps you go to different places, especially at our early stages.
Yeah.
And what Josh and I have found in the ed tech industry, it's relationships that are actually going to help
facts.
us open those doors. We can have the best product. We're military men. We definitely know we're respectable individuals and and honorable individuals. But without those individuals who can help us get into those rooms that we cannot access, we're just another company knocking on their door.
Yeah,
100%.
gatekeepers. You gotta know who's gonna open the doors for you, and that's why also you gotta be able to open doors for others.
Yes.
You know, that's what I'm saying now. That a lot of people talk like they do, but then they don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My thing about networking, it depends on the type of networking event you go. Because I hate the ones where people are all stuffy and pontificating, like, "Oh, what are you building right now?" Like, I that stuff is just not pleasant. I've found the best ones I've found are like actually parties, like when you're having a good time and people, let go of that, buttoned up element of themselves, and they start talking freely. They might even share like their issues, what's going on, and they're like, okay, this is actually something you guys can actually level with one another a little bit better. So when I go to those ones and it's just dry and stuffy, sure, I'll talk to people, but everybody kind of knows what you're there for. You get a bunch of business cards and you hit them up, and you got to follow up and the follow through and all that stuff. And I always say when you follow up, it's that next, their communication back to you. That's when you have something going. But most times when it's party, you guys can have a relationship based on an experience together. And it's like, hey, that night in Miami, and this had this and this, and then you see what happened on the backside of it. So I'm more in favor of that stuff, because that's where I found with me things get done rather than just like going to
to your point, and this is what I kind of learned through our community with Access Mode. It's like depth of relationship is actually what helps you win, right? So when I was with you all day in, day out, I was like, okay, I forgot about that being on COVID, and you just kind of you can get on a Zoom call, don't really have to talk to them about it. You don't really have those deep conversations outside of your real friendships. But when you have those depth of relationship, then it's nothing for me to be like, oh yeah, Donovan, I got you tomorrow, or Caleb, I got this situation. So like when you go to those networking events, that's just like kind of what Kris is saying. It's very high overview. Like, you know, it might be a good chance for someone to see you as like see your face. But as far as those deep connections, you got to basically either Kris said have those experiences that collect with them.
Well, and even to your point, like, I mean, Mark Zuckerberg met Sean Parker at a party, right?
Exactly.
You know, and it's stuff like that. Like and Sean Parker was a very instrumental person to help Facebook to get to where they were. In fact, if it wasn't for Sean Parker, Mark would have still stayed in the East Coast, which is where he originated, and stayed there, and he wouldn't have went to the West Coast.
The Social Network is one of my favorite movies.
I know. Thank you for explaining that movie for us.
so I'm
wait
just
till
saying,
you learn about the Winkletop.
so I'm just saying, like, you know, networking is super important. And yeah, you just never, and there's even another term, it's called the network effect, right? So it is all about those networks that could really help your business scale even.
No, that's good.
So yeah, no, that's really good stuff. Yeah. So you guys go ahead and throw in anything else.
Well,
you
I
have
think it's
on
good.
that.
I think this is episode 1. We'll probably get back with each other and continue to have conversations. So I think it's good where we're at. I mean, we can continue to talk and then go into different topics. You know, maybe a different day.
Yeah. Well, actually, I got some more though.
Oh, you're going?
Yeah. No, I'm not.
Cool.
Shit, I thought I was done.
I thought you were.
No, like here's the thing about being an entrepreneur, right? So we're constantly grinding. Right, that's an obvious. So in the process of constantly grinding, trying to meet either your milestones, your deadlines, dealing with either customers, investors, let's talk about like the entrepreneur, the person, the human behind all those milestones and goals and deadlines. Does that human have a life outside of being an entrepreneur? Do they date? Do they have relationships?
Pins on the founder, bro.
I was going to say, I think Donovan's married, if you don't mind me putting your personal life out there.
Shout out Melinda.
So let's talk about
I'm
that.
single, Kyle's single.
Yeah, let's talk about that life of an entrepreneur.
So I think you got to find a balance. It's all comes down to balance. I think, if you want to watch a movie or go for a run, Kyle and I like working out, so I'll wake up, get some stuff done, go to the gym, come back, get some stuff done. I think you got to find a balance with yourself, because if you're not at your best, what you're building won't be at its best either. So just finding whatever it is. Reading, obviously, is an escape for us. I don't know. It just comes down to you want to go to the spa. You want to go to, meditate. I'm pro therapy. I don't really go to get therapy, but like some people that might be it for them. So I think you just got to find it for yourself, because like I said, if you're not at your best, your product or company, whatever you're building, won't be at its best.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I can agree with that too. Like, I mean, it's I wouldn't say I guess I am single, right? Yeah, I guess that's a thing. But but like,
Thank you for securing the podcast.
No, but like here's the thing, like relationships and trying to build trying to build a business or be an entrepreneur. Like to your point, Kris, it's you got to pick and choose what you want to basically what you feel. It's all about priorities, right?
And it's gonna come down to the person,
right?
Because obviously, you can go into more depth if you want to. Your partner's got to be up for it, because I've found some are not. Some people want like the 9 to 5, like you're done.
Yeah.
I was told, somewhat recently that I'm too close to my work. You know what I mean? So I don't have the free time that others might, or I'm too in it. Where if you're on the clock, you're done. Right. You guys can go do whatever you want, and you gotta have someone who's gonna support you, because we're in the early stages. Like we've said a bunch on this podcast, we're in the trenches. It's easy to like us when we're multimillionaires, and we have all the glitz and glamour. It's hard to like me now when, that's not present, but it's on its way, but it's who sees that. And so that's my conundrum I'm dealing with in that department. And I'm sure there's plenty of women that, are going to be there with them, and plenty of women who have been there with them in the past. Like our dad's a really good friend. He just sent us something this morning, and him and his wife got married at like 26. Didn't start their company until, I don't know, like 4 or 5 years later. And now he's, doing really well, has a portfolio of multi-millions. But it's like she was in the trenches with him. So there's an element of that. There's somebody out there who you can find. I just haven't found it for myself, but I'm not saying they don't exist.
Yeah.
And which is funny enough to talk about the trenches. My wife, she's going to actually hate me telling this story. But when I actually moved to Colorado back in 2017 for my first startup, living in Boulder, renting an apartment with a few roommates, but then actually splitting a room itself because I was an entrepreneur. I was trying to go through a grind. And I had an air mattress in there. And that's when my wife, and she saw my air mattress, and I was so embarrassed. And, she stayed over after a few dates and all that good stuff. But now we're in a different place in life. We own our home and different place in life. So she's been with me through the first company that didn't go well but took a lot of learnings as we're building Mili Llama, taking those learnings to grow. And she's been my confidant, my counselor. She's been with me to take our Llama out Benito to marketing events along with our daughter. So you need that partner who's willing to
goals.
No,
what's going on.
I love that, bro. That's cool.
Yeah.
And to the both things, I think when it comes down to taking care of yourself as an entrepreneur, it's really coming down to what we used to do. Like when we were in a program together, we're like, let's go hoop. You know what I'm saying? Like we just go play basketball for just a little bit so we can get out of those trenches. So I think it depends on the founders. Like some founders, like I can go for 20 hours and have no problem, right? So it just depends on what type of founder you are. And then having somebody that comes into like that you can build a relationship and know that this is going to be a lot of your focus, and they have to also work with that as well.
You got to know yourself.
Yeah, you do. So you really have to come down. Yeah, that's what it comes down to.
100%. No, good stuff. This has been really great stuff. I would say, too, even, I guess we're at the closing out point. What is you guys' I guess if you want to say inspiration or go-to books that you read to help you either overcome the hard times and or just continue to inspire you while you're building your businesses? For me, I guess I can start it off. I don't know if it's my top books are Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, Rich Dad Poor Dad. Those two books really gave me the insights into not only the mindset that you need as an entrepreneur, but also the personal finance that you need. So those two books, and then I have other books as well, more on the I would say spiritual side of things too, that I get into. Dr. Joe Dispenza, he's one of my go-to spiritual gurus. But and he wrote a book called You Are the Placebo, and there's a lot of nice books out there about that. So I'm interested to know whether it's books or people. What do you guys go to?
I'm more of a podcast listener. Unfortunately, I don't read as much as I should, even though my favorite book of all time is Lord of the Flies. I remember reading that back in 5th grade. Always loved that book. But anything that the Wondery brand podcast produces, specifically How I Built This, because when Ride Guys interviews those founders, like recently he did the Liquid Death founder, very good episode. You should go listen to it. They're telling the trials and tribulations that they went through before they made it to the success that they're currently going through. And that's what I like to hear, because you look at certain news articles, it's this company raised this amount of money, this other company was acquired. And as a founder, you want to get to those goals and grow your company to become that successful. However, when you don't hear those success stories, you said validation. You look for that validation. And it's good to hear those stories of the struggles and the perseverance to keep going.
I would say, to your point, my favorite books are of autobiographies. So like some it's silly, but I don't know why I really enjoy this book. But The Keys by DJ Khaled. He just has like little snippets, like They Talk and Watch Out for Them and all this stuff. Like I've read that book like 4 or 5 times. But also I love Grinding It Out by Ray Kroc. I love Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun by Reginald Lewis. Who is Michael Vitz? If you're reading this, it's too late by Jerry Weintraub. And I think the commonality.
No. If you're
reading this, excuse me, if you're reading this, you know.
This is Drake for a second.
I know. I know.
I was so confused for a second.
No, if you're reading this, it's too late. Yeah. If you're reading this, you know I'm. You know,
we said it's called Jerry Weintraub. Now you got me messed up. Goodness gracious.
Shout out
Jerry Weintraub's autobiography. It's a phenomenal book, and that's funny because that's probably the best book.
When I stop
of
talking,
the ones
you know I'm dead.
When I stop talking, you know I'm dead.
Goodness gracious.
If
it's much different.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I've been talking for over an hour.
No,
but yeah, that actually is probably the best book of the ones I dropped too. But all of them have that in common where they. It just shows the backside of their relationships, of like how they got to the point, you know, where it's the glitz and glamour of the building a CAA, building a McDonald's, you know, having like being the richest black man in America. Like, okay, yeah, that's probably where you picked up the book or that's what you know them for. But it's like you didn't know that Ray Kroc was 52 when you met the McDonald's brothers. You know, he had been at this. You know what I mean? Michael Vitz like started, you know, CAA with no money, you know, so like all these things, like it really helps me put my perspective on it. And I think same with you, like podcasts and these books, like I read from the place of what I'm like really into. So I'm not like a Sarah J. Maas, I'm not a hater or a fan. I'm not really into like fiction books or romance or whatever books. I like the movies, sure, but like that's not my go-to books. But for other people, they may be. But I like autobiographies, and to Donovan's point, like you like being able to hear their life story and then learning those lessons and taking it with me.
Yeah, I'm reading this book called King. It's called King of Life. So it's just the story of King, and it's one of the craziest books. Like when you really get to see like the ins and outs of, because you look at Martin Luther King as this huge, you know, speaker and all that, but you really get to see his flaws too, right? You get to see how he's like around our age and still figuring it out, right? He didn't go out to Montgomery till he's like 26, you know what I'm saying? 27, right? So these are just things that like you see him for who he is and how he became. So I would just say books. So everything that we're saying is you want to read books that are where you're at, kind of, right? But when I say where you're at, like, you see where they go, like, but then you get to see where they were at when they're your age and all that.
But I know people once more to that point who read books that are fantasy, that's more the escapism.
No, I think it's great.
They like the fantasy nature or the storytelling element of it is kind of like what pulls them away. Like they can't read autobiographies because it's too.
Yeah, I think it's good when people read those type of books because it allows you to see. It's like the world building and the character. It's like a story. Like it unfolds in real time. So I think it's whatever you love to read, you should read it more of it, right? You know, you want to keep reading. You want to be the type of person. I don't know why I'm doing this, but just let y'all know. It's like you want to be the type of person that loves to. You want to read what you love until you love to read, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, because I would say, this is my perspective of seeing it. Like where the only way we accumulate knowledge is through information, right?
Yeah, good point.
So information comes through books and a variety of different routes, and so there's a term, leaders are readers.
Oh yeah.
You know, so I mean, if you're trying to, and not everyone is aspiring to be a leader, and that's completely fine too, but if you are aspiring to be a leader, you can either learn from other people's mistakes and their stories, or you can have a hard time in life learning from all your mistakes that you're going to make. So that's how I see it. And I love, to your point, autobiographies. I fell in love with, like, you know, I don't think it's actually books, but there's this History Channel movie about the men who built America. And it talks
great show.
about, what was it?
Yeah, I said great show. And then they have a bunch of spin-offs too, like the food that built America.
Is it?
Technology that built America.
Nice.
Yeah, it's honestly really good.
Yeah, no, the Andrew Carnegies, the, Fords and, Edisons, like all those folks that really set the stage in terms of the American industry. And so those for me really, and then to your point, even the tech people too, the Bill Gates, the Steve Jobs. And so, but I would say it's about time too, since, we are in a podcast where it's all minorities here, and people of color. Like, I'm looking forward to books that, or even stories that has industry of, like, black men, men of color, and so that way the future generation can look up and see, like, there are the future generations of people of color can realize, like, there are successful, like, black people, not necessarily just only in entertainment and
no, I think you're right,
and all
yeah.
that, but in industry.
I was gonna say, to your point,
Yeah.
who were some of your inspirations, Donovan, Caleb, black or people of color, entrepreneurs that inspired you either now or coming up?
It's a great question. Well, I would even you need to tell me about the book, the book King. It's called King.
Yeah, it's called King. King of Life. It's a great book. I'm listening to it on audio because it's like 600 pages. And my thing when it comes to books is, like, if it's an autobiography, I like to listen to it just because everything. King's actually a unique story, but a lot of people's like, knowing your story right here at 10 wasn't the most impactful moments. I like to just hear it and go through it versus like trying to read every single page of that part.
Well, because that's a great question, and I'm not gonna lie, and this is unfortunate because, like, I've tried to study. I'm a really big history buff, and I studied a lot about, like, American history and, like, American industry. And unfortunately, in that history, there's not a lot of, and that was actually one of the things I would see a lot. I'm like, wait, where are the black, business leaders or, whatever, whether it's business or even just, like, philosophers or even political leaders. There wasn't a lot of them in the history of America, unfortunately.
You want to know the real story?
You want to know the reason why that is?
And you're right. And I'm thankful for Black History Month, right, to spread that awareness of, and sure enough, we're, having this podcast on Black History Month to share the awareness of where, we came from as a black race and where we're going to. But, Martin Luther King actually was and still is a great inspiration to me when I, read his story and his vision, his dream, and, what he had for not only, black folks, but, every person. So I would say Martin Luther King was the king was definitely a go-to person of inspiration. But now, what's that guy from Vista Equity?
Yeah, Robert Smith.
Robert
Shout
Smith.
out to Denver.
East High School.
And there's another guy from John Hope Bryant. Yeah, I post a lot about his stuff too. These are the current, like, black leaders. There's also women. A lot of people don't like Oprah for whatever reason. I think what she's been able to do as a black woman.
Well, I'm in books. I love Oprah. I tell you that.
I think what she's been able to do as a black woman, right? So it's one thing being black, but as a black woman, says a lot. I think a lot of people need to, like, kind of figure out and learn. And I don't know if the right word is learn from her, but, like, figure out how she did it, and kind of go from there. Yeah.
And I think when you look at inspiration, it doesn't always have to be someone who's on the status level of Oprah, on the status level of Topi from Calendly. It can be someone in your local community or even someone who's in your home. So the biggest inspiration I have is my mom, Shirley. She wasn't an entrepreneur, but she had to sell her skill set to continue working. She had to be the CEO of our household for my sisters and I to make sure she balanced the budget, put food on our table, product market fit, which was getting us to school and getting us to a stage in our life where we could take care of ourselves. And that's what she did. So that was my biggest inspiration, even though very few people know who this woman is. But hopefully one day will.
Wow.
Shirley?
No, that was moving, bro.
Shirley from Birmingham, Alabama.
Okay.
Shout out to Birmingham, producing legends.
I'll tell you, when I was a kid, one of the things that kind of changed my trajectory was when I saw that Jay-Z started Rock Nation, because what he did with that was the first time I saw you could have sports agency and entertainment. I was like, wait, how is that a thing? Like, I was just as a kid, my parents were like, oh, you got to go to law school because then you can do this and all that, right? So I was like, okay, I'll go to law school, right? But through that, you learn, like, those are some of the entrepreneurs that really have had a huge impact on me. One I'll say when I was in college is Ryan Wilson. He does the Gathering Spot, and it is one of the coolest spots. It's like a black country club of just, like, the smartest people that are in Atlanta that do entrepreneurship and all that. Kind of like basically like where we're at now, where it's like a entrepreneur hub, but for specifically founders in Atlanta. And it's amazing what they've been able to accomplish.
Mine was Magic Johnson. I still look up to Magic Johnson. Obviously, I learned about him watching old videos of the Showtime Lakers, and I learned what he did. Had to go through off the court and then what he built off the court. So Magic Johnson, definitely numero uno for me. And then I mean, very blessed and fortunate to have him still in my life today, but from throughout. But one of my dad's good friends, Charles David Moody, who's built a bunch of things in Atlanta, and he was actually the gentleman I was referring to about a little bit earlier about him and his wife. But, like, having that as a close person, I could say, like, oh, you can go to Morehouse, you can build something from scratch, and it becomes, something, put me on this level where it's like, okay, you could do it. Also really love Reginald Lewis, who I've gotten into recently, but, like, he needs to be learned from age of birth, you know what I mean? Because I don't know how I went 28 years not knowing who this dude was, and he's one of the most inspirational people I've ever come across.
Yeah, and we're reading his book in our Founders Book Club on our platform. So if you all want to read it with us.
Shameless plug.
Yeah, I mean, just might as well say it. Reginald Lewis, so he started, he's a black lawyer who graduated from Harvard Law School, ended up doing some leverage buyouts and all that. He first bought McCall Patterns, which is like a texture company and all these different things. He literally bought that for $1 million, reflipped it in 3 years for $90 million. Then he went on to buy Beatrice Food, which was like one of these big, like, international food things that he had to, like, obviously learn how to. He had to do all this deal making, but when he bought it, they bought it for like $987 million. He was like the first black person to generate $1 billion in America. Like, and the thing is, then he passed away because he had brain cancer. So, like, no one, like, not that many people know his story. All they have is his book, basically, right? And his family is, like, really cool, like Miss Loyota Lewis, and his family is unique. Like, he got married to a Filipina woman, and so, like, it was just, like, a very interesting story that I think people should read. And if you all are interested, I would love for you guys to get an audiobook or read it however you like.
A couple more. Yeah. Marcus Garvey.
Yeah, Black Star.
Being dead serious.
Yeah.
Marcus Garvey.
The name sounds familiar.
Look him up. Then LeBron of late and Jay-Z, because these dudes they are amazing. And then obviously Oprah. Oprah is and there's plenty of other people. I think we've already shouted her out, but, like, LaDonna's well on her way to being type of Oprah person that we say it now, or you'd be like, oh, I don't know who that is. You gotta go look up at her company or whatever. But, like, there's some wonderful women on their way up currently.
Pinky Cole from Slutty Vegan. I know I'm shouting out a lot of Atlanta. The company's called
Colorado people.
The company's called Slutty
Good
Vegan.
Question.
And she does, like, healthy burgers and all these type of things, and it's become like $100 million company too.
Shout out to Zanetta.
Zanetta is really great too.
Yeah.
It's
Who
good.
believed in all of us at the beginning.
Right.
Program manager, founder, access mode.
Yeah.
All around bees.
Right. Change maker.
Game shaker.
Yeah. No. No. This has been great. This is solid. Let's close it out with this really nice little kind of thought that I'll throw out there, of, like, where do you guys want to see, or where do you guys see your businesses in the next 5 years? Like, 4 years?
No, 4 minutes.
Okay. Next
We're
5
getting
years.
kicked out every once.
Like, what is like success for you guys? And I would say for me, you know, when you pitch, there's always that conversation about exit strategies, right? So, you know, two ways, right? So if I were to go the exit strategy route, you know, I think being bought out by a nice, you know, financial company like a Capital One Cafe, since we're basically we have the same mission that they have in terms of, you know, financial coaches and spreading financial literacy and financial empowerment. So I do see an avenue through Capital One Cafe. But also, you know, I've always had aspirations, especially, let's say, you know, things are looking pretty good this year. Things starts clicking and we start raising funds and I get the second wind of wanting to go IPO. Like, that would be amazing. So for me, the IPO route, of course, that's a route of absolute commitment and like you gotta, you know, put a lot of things in a back burner and just like focus on going IPO. You know, I think that would be a great opportunity to, you know, do that as well. But I'll say in the next 5 years, you know, raising WalletGyde to the level to where we have, you know, companies like Capital One Cafe or Capital One knocking at our doors or even into it would be awesome.
I would say for us, we're not really thinking of an exit strategy right now. Our biggest focus in the interim, and we're looking at mainly a 3-year roadmap, is to provide a good user experience during our right now we are in our product market fit phase and providing that fit for our pilot customers, our pilot substitute teachers, and we just want to provide that good experience, grow our company, expand to more states and cities, and solve the substitute teacher shortage.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're much like Donovan. Our goal is to really just become a platform for creators in the book space to monetize and to build their companies. We become a platform that allows people to have really great book clubs and really focus on that. We'll be able to do whatever we want.
Yeah. One of the things I pride myself on I'm looking forward to it, and it's not all about money. It's about value created for me. But one of the people that was one of our cohort members, I'll name drop him, Roger, said something. He was like, I quit my job because I'm going all in on this. And I told Kyle, I was like, that's kind of what I want for BookUm, is like someone literally quits their job because they're making enough money as a creator on our platform to sustain their life, to like raise their kids, pay their bills, pay tuition. Like, that is such a win for me. So just being a, you know, the go-to one-stop shop, centralized place within the market is our goal, and it's not going to stop anytime soon. And you want to produce, you know, we have big goals for it. IPO and all that stuff, we'll see, and exit strategy, we'll see when we get there. But like at this moment, it's just like creating as much value for our customers.
You know, and with that being said, I think we're right on the dot of the time to close out. So no, this has been great. Looking forward to more podcasting and having a conversation about our startups.
Yeah, this was fun.
Yeah, thank you, brother.
All right,
to the
guys.
community.
Yes, over and out.